Good morning, everybody. Hello, and welcome to today's webinar. Today's webinar is on addressing the gender pay gap. My name is Amanda Chadwick, and I am a speaker. Today's webinar is talking about a really hot topic at the moment in HR, and it's to do with the big between gender pay. We always seem to start addressing the we always seem to start with the date, which is the 22nd of May. Approximate running time of the webinar today is 45 minutes. It could be less, it could be a little bit more. My name's Amanda Chadwick. I'm a speaker. I'm also a writer, and if you could please note the detail contained within this webinar is based on GB employment legislation. We do have any clients in the jurisdictions of Northern Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, Jersey, Guernsey, and the Isle of Man. You could contact us at our advice service to obtain information relevant to your jurisdiction. Today's webinar is, as I keep saying, about gender pay gap. We're going to talk about the objectives now. It is to gain practical advice on understanding internal and external factors, creating an action plan, common actions to address the gap, and the advantages of voluntary reporting. So, okay, the gender pay gap, what is it? So it's the difference on average between earnings for male and female employees. So if you remember, in April 2017, the median gender pay gap for full-time employees was 9.1%. What I will point out to you, in case you're scribbling notes and you're making notes on the slides, that's absolutely fine, but we can get these to you after the broadcast, so don't worry about getting and trying to keep up with me and listening to what I'm saying. We'll get those slides over to you. So what isn't it? Okay, so the existence of a gender pay gap does not mean there is an equal pay issue. Equal pay relates to pay for one specific job role, comparing one male employee and one female employee. Gender pay gap looks at the pay across the entire workforce for all male and female employees. So it's not necessarily evidence of sexual discrimination, or this could be, although this could be a contributing factor we will look at later on. So why are we talking about it? Okay, well, regulations were introduced in April 2017 requiring private employers to calculate and publish the gender pay gap. So the Equality Act 2010, if you remember, gender pay gap information, well, the Equality Act 2010 regulations took effect on the 6th of April 2017. So this is an annual task. And what you're actually doing is getting a snapshot on the 5th of April of your gender pay data and calculating the relevant statistics, then publishing the data the 4th of April the following year. That's what I'm asking you to do. It is an annual task. And one thing you need to remember here, and I will keep talking about it throughout this presentation, is that people go, oh, well, I don't employ 250 or more. I don't do that. But a lot of people are forgetting that in that 250, the annual task is inclusive of apprenticeships, casual workers, 0-hour workers, and self-employed, for example. The requirement also applies to the public sector, but with a slightly different reporting deadline. So we're looking at a snapshot date on the 31st of March each year. The report is then done the following year, 30th of March. So you can see it's not cut and dry. People think, well, I've got 250 staff, I haven't got them full-time or part-time, that, you know, I did not included. But then we're looking at a construction business that has a lot of subcontractors, a lot of casual workers, 0-hour people they think might not be self-employed. So you've got to analyse that, and you've got to look at your workforce. What I say, my seminars that I do and my talks, is when the legislation changes in April and October every year, the statutory payments come in. It's really good practice at that point just to have a look and look through some of the contracts you have. Look at your apprentice agreements. Check out that you do have an apprentice agreement, volunteer agreements. Check out the work that you're doing with that. And also, I would advise at that point to check how often you use your 0-hour workers, your casual workers, and how often you are using that person you think is self-employed when actually they might not be. So I think it's a great time when legislation comes in at that point, analyse what you've already got written down, but also at the same time looking at how society is impacting on your contracts as well. So you might have that in your diary. April and October, that's when you look at things, and that's when you are actually doing a snapshot of your gender pay gap. The deadline for the second reporting passed on the 4th of May 2019, and the analysis shows the gender pay gap for 2017 data was 9.7%, and the gender pay gap for 2018 was just marginally, there's a small reduction. So what we've also got to remember, that there's also what we call a reverse pay gap. So that's where the gender pay is in favour of a woman. So this is the information, obviously, that's collated from the previous year. So we are seeing a slight reduction here. Right, so moving forwards, and with gender pay gap, the snapshot date for 2019 data passed on the 5th of April 2019. Statistics to be reported by the 4th of April 2020. Scrutiny likely to focus on success of reducing or removing gaps. Now, that removing gaps, sometimes it's not possible to remove it overnight. A lot of work has to be done. There might be challenges that you face ahead as well. Let's remember that, but we'll talk about that later on. Reporting requirement could be extended to smaller organisations, and government has to review the regulations within 5 years of the commencement. So they need to have a look at it by April 2022 to see how successful it is. And then they're thinking of a necessity pay gap reporting to follow maybe. So understanding internal and external factors. So why are we doing this? It's calculated and identified. From this, what we're doing is we're looking at if a pay gap exists in your organisation. And also, when you've done the review and looked at the legality and the fairness of internal practices, what you're also doing is forming a plan that will be effective and targeted. And what you're doing is you're calculating and identifying a gap, and questions may arise from your existing staff. And what you're doing by proving that you're doing this plan and you're targeting it and you're making sure that it is effective, what you're doing is you're showing that nothing untoward or discriminatory is happening in your organisation. So then you question, why is there a gap? And you have to look at other processes that you have. So understanding internal and external factors. So how a business operates internally could actually affect the gender pay gap statistics. Oh, and as I'm saying all this to you, I'm thinking HR used to be so simple, didn't it, 30 years ago? And now we have to do lots of stuff. But how a business operates internally could affect gender pay gap statistics. So examples include refusing flexible working for all management and leadership positions, unconscious bias occurring in recruitment and promotion decisions, and then basing salary decisions on individual negotiations. So what we've got here is unconscious bias occurring in recruitment and promotion decisions. So I think I remember a long time ago for me, somebody saying, a male was saying to me, and I'm sure men and female have got, you know, plenty of stories to say, but a man saying to me, I hope you're not going to go for that position because you've got children to think about. You know, they're not an ornament, you know, they are, I've never brought my family into working life, and I've always been a really productive and efficient person. It doesn't matter who I am, but a person, and I don't care what you get paid as long as I don't get treated any less favourably. So there's an example from myself years and years ago, but also what can happen is a conscious bias during recruitment. So we might think that a female might not be able to lead a male team, for example. And I remember an advert sent to me a few years ago, and it was an advert for a firm in Liverpool that does haulage, it does forklift truck and storage, and the advert was promoting some jobs that they had. So they obviously bought mass-produced a mailing list, sent it to me, not knowing what I did as a employment, and it said, "Dear Amanda, we love you to apply for this role. This is the salary. This is what you'd be doing. You'd be working in a warehouse, it's lifting and carrying, blah blah blah." And then it said at the bottom, "P.S. ladies, please do not apply." And I actually emailed the director of the company, didn't say where I worked or anything, and just said, which is an actual genuine fact, that in the 80s I used to be rated the 3rd strongest powerlifter in the UK for females. So, you know, I said to him, I can lift, finished with my family, so whereabouts, you know, why couldn't a woman do the role? And I said, you're going to maybe have a sexual discrimination case from the advert. Obviously, it's a protected characteristic. And I just thought I can give you some advice on it. And he really didn't realise the fact that he'd sexually discriminated. So it's changing people's perception and bias as to what they think that a female can do. So unconscious bias occurring in recruitment, promotion decisions, basing salary decisions on individual negotiations. So what we may do is, as a female, we may not realise our worth, and we may not realise that in a previous job there's been unconscious bias towards us, so we've had a lesser salary than male counterparts. So when we're bargaining and bartering, negotiating for our statement of main terms for our new role, we'll base it on what we were paid in our last role. So that might be the wrong salary for the actual job that I would be doing. Whereas a man, and it's known that traditional concept, males are more likely to negotiate better terms than their female counterparts. So there's another reason to look at gender pay gap. So breaking boundaries, breaking those concerns, breaking the thought process, and maybe when you are recruiting, for example, having a 50% male and female on the recruitment board. So then it's a fair route of recruitment and fair practice. You're doing due diligence, and I think it's a really good way forward. So again, understanding the internal and external factors. So how can you find out whether internal practices are contributing towards the gap? I would say review your internal practices, carry out audits, example, equal pay audit, conduct a staff survey and conduct a management survey. Some people are reluctant to approach their manager because at the end of the day, that manager is in control of their future. So they might want to say to the manager, I don't agree with what you're saying or what you're doing, and I don't agree with the way you're treating somebody. And this is why we have whistleblowing policies. This is why I have grievance procedures. What I would say to the senior managers within a company and HR is conduct an honest, confidential staff survey, and it can result in unfair practices being uncovered and inappropriate responses as well. So conduct a management survey, I think that's a really good idea to do, and as overall it will tell you the truth about your company and it can help you change it. And also it creates, I keep talking about it, we haven't done a webinar on it yet, but employee engagement, employee buy-in, knowing that I'm going to stay there for a long time and believing in your company and making it, I want to believe that I'm going to make it profitable, sustainable. I'm going to be part of that journey. That starts from the top. It starts from a staff survey and management survey, and you can do it by instigating that. So understanding internal and external factors, what might you find? So job applications are typically received from one gender. So I am still seeing people choosing an application form. I remember one case actually, and it was the opposite. It was actually favouring women over a male. And the man sent off a CV by recorded delivery, but he changed the sex to a female, and she got an interview and he didn't. So we're seeing a lot of this happen on TV. So straight away, to mention to you, everybody listening to me, you should be using an application form, and it should be saying that it's a legal document just to stop a tribunal in its tracks. But job applications are typically received from one gender, so you might find that you're just attracting one gender. Nurseries get it. Doctor surgeries also seem to attract one gender. We're seeing that change a little bit now. Exit interviews that show employees of a certain gender leave because of a lack of flexible working. So I always say one of the defence documents you should be using is an exit interview, and it should say again it's a legal document. You're asking somebody, why are you leaving? And it's also a defence document in a tribunal case. It's amazing because you find out a lot about your company. It's like a staff survey before they leave, really. Are you leaving? Well, I don't like a certain manager. They treat me like this. They say the wrong thing. It stops the tribunal in its tracks. It gathers evidence. It is a defence document, and you learn a lot about your business. Employees of a certain gender do not progress past a certain level and are more likely to leave. And makeup of management is not diverse enough. So this is what you might find out when you do an audit. These are the types of things that might be revealed to you that you can do something about. So, in certain industries, sectors and professions, external factors may impact internal pay gaps. So the examples included here are lower numbers of one gender studying within a profession. Type of workings, for example, is part-time, is proportionately higher than in other sectors, and traditional view of certain professions as men's jobs or women's jobs. So it is a traditional concept that more women do work part-time to meet the demands of a family and the commitments that they have. So part-time is likely to lead to a higher proportion of female workers who are paid less than full-time males. So that's one consideration here that we might look at. So then we have understanding internal and external factors, and how can you find out whether external factors are contributing towards the gap. So what you need to do is review the pay gaps and information from competitors. Look at the pay gap in your sector, seek advice and guidance from sector-specific bodies. So the next step we're going to do is create an action plan. So the Gender Equalities Office research are saying that 69% of employers in 2018 viewed closing the gender pay gap as a high or medium priority. That's an increase of 8% from 2017. So what we're actually seeing is a lot of publicity about equal pay. And because of that publicity in the media, a lot of people don't want to be named and shamed. A lot of people are doing something about it. And a lot of employers out there are looking at closing that gender pay gap. I think the Me Too campaign at the same time has affected this also. So 67% of organisations are having board level discussions on this issue. So there's no legal requirement to create an action plan, but always a but, isn't there? But how can you address or close the gender pay gap without a plan of action? Where would you go for one? Well, I'm happy to say at CIPD HR form we do have that, and it's available to you. So creating an action plan. So step one of this, carry out a review of internal and external contributing. I'm having a word search in my memory today. I can't even say it today. Factors. Identify which employment area this factor relates to. So recruitment, for example, I gave you examples of that. Promotion. We're having training, apprenticeships, pay, and family-friendly policies and flexible working. So these are identify which employment area this relates to, and then have a look at it. So you might section it out to, as I said, recruitment, and have a look at how you recruit, whereabouts do you recruit? Is it, you know, are you limited to where you recruit? Who holds the recruitment? Who sits on the panel? What skills you're looking for? Then look at promotion. Who does the promotion? Who suggests people for promotion? Who applies? Why don't certain people apply for it? Look at the training that's available. Look at the apprenticeships as well. I know Airbus, for example, are actively targeting female engineers. And then and schools, it's starting at school level as well, where they're actively encouraged. I don't know about you, but when I went to school, I was actively encouraged to do home economics, it was called, domestic science. And I was encouraged to be able to darn a sock. That's showing my age, isn't it? How to make a high tea with cucumber sandwiches and Victorian sponge and iron a shirt properly, because that was the way they saw my future. My sister actually insisted on doing woodwork, and there was a big uproar. My mother and father had to go in to allow her to do woodwork. So we're seeing a change in the schools as well, and we're now seeing that it doesn't matter what sex you are, but you can be an engineer, you can do whatever you want to do. Sex shouldn't hold you back. And that's the same within work as well. That starts with apprenticeships, pay, the family-friendly rights. And also, I have to say, a lot of the family-friendly rights there have been swayed towards the employee. So what I say now is family-friendly rights are not just for females, they're for male as well, but they're also for people that have dependents. So what we're seeing change is people do have other commitments. Apart from children, they have commitments when it comes to family, to relatives, to animals, to pets, that type of stuff, or even their own personal life and well-being. So we're seeing lots of changes there. The way forward is about employee engagement, it is happiness in the workforce, and starting with gender pay gap and realising that you're working for a comfortable, the company that you're comfortable with is the way forward to staying with that company. And that's what I want ultimately, is my staff to stay with me and be happy. We spend an awful lot of time at work, don't we? So step 2, determine what internal action can be taken to address each contributory factor. I got it right this time. So create an action plan, step 3. For each gap, confirm the target you are aiming for, the timescales for achieving that target, and who has responsibility for this action. So it needs to be measurable. So example, percentage of one gender in management. And then who's responsible for this action? You know, you need to put down who is. So it might be the department head of recruitment, the department head of rewards, the director, and the timescales need to be specific so this can be measured. So step 4, the action plan in writing, either as part of the gender pay gap report or a standalone plan. Okay, so it looks, insert details, example, female employees in promoted positions, insert details of promotion, development and proposed action. And so in writing, a confirmation of the plan and evidence. And then if somebody's challenging you, so saying, what did you do about it? You can say, look, I created an action plan and I had a target outcome, and this was the responsibility was allocated on this date to that person. So do you publish or do you not publish it? So if you're publishing, it makes your organisation accountable. It provides evidence that action is being taken, and it can help manage employee questions and complaints. If you don't publish, neither, you know, you're not going to be able to manage the expectations. It could lead to more negativity. And it's difficult to proactively amend or update. But I do think if you're not publishing, it's like it's a cloak and dagger organisation that I'm working for. But managing the expectations at the time of completing your action plan, your target may seem achievable and reasonable. But as I said earlier on, but it will not take into consideration any challenges or changes, etc., that you encounter, and it doesn't foresee those. So you should use the action plan to explain the complexity of issues, and you may need several actions or years to even close the gap in certain organisations. When you're managing the employees, the action plan can set out why you are doing this, the fact that you take gender pay parity seriously, and employee will see also that you are actually taking it seriously and not brushing it under the carpet, and you're actually investigating and doing something about it by proving that you have an action plan in place with deadlines. So common actions to address the gap. Example, employment area 1 is recruitment. So recruitment should be objectively, so carry out gender blind recruitment processes. So I remember that the London, I think it was the London Philharmonic Orchestra, they had they did all their recruitment behind a screen. So I don't know how, I do know when somebody is recruiting, what we do nowadays anyway, unless you need a particular skill, we look at where that person has worked. And then what we do is we look at their personality and the way they conduct themselves in an interview, what they have to say. And that's what we look at. What we shouldn't be looking at is whether they're male or female. So recruitment made objectively, carry out a gender blind recruitment process. So as I said earlier on, had diversity requirements shortlisting or selection panels. So 50% male, 50% female shows fairness. Provide unconscious bias training to recruitment decision makers. So what I do come across is that lots of different ages within a company. If you remember, for us, I'm not saying for us, I'm not saying you're all a certain age or similar age to me, I've seen so much change over the years. And if you think that you're employing somebody, we're going to, you know, if you're born today, you're going to hopefully live to over 100. So you can see in the future that people aren't going to retire at 60 and 65. There is truly no retirement age in the UK unless you can objectively justify it now. So we're going to have huge age differences in the workplace. You'll know yourself, I know, for example, with my grandfather, how different his beliefs were to my beliefs. So we can see that in the workplace, and it's changing that view and perception. And it's up to us, HR and management, to make that change and help people see that and work together as a great workforce. So we need to combat unconscious bias. We need to look at where decisions are made based on stereotypes or assumptions. As I said earlier on, a female leading a team of males, and I've heard in the workplace years ago, is it your time of the month? It's your change. So but I'm not, there's also a discrimination against males as well from females. We've plenty of those, but today we're talking about gender pay gap, so I'm highlighting these cases as I'm going along to do females today. But the fact is, we need to change that. We need to have an equality harassment policy in place within our business. We need to ensure, for example, that it includes race, which isn't just skin colour, it's accent as well. Religion, there's 85 recognised religions in the UK. We've got race, religion, religious belief, we've got no belief, environmental belief, political opinion, affiliation, marital status, disability, we've got cancer, HIV, stress, depression, arthritis, dwarfism, dyslexia, things you can see, things you can't see. We've got disability, we've got age, we've got gender reassignment, marital status. This is the policy, you have that there. So if anybody feels they're being discriminated against, don't ignore the complaint. You have a reporting procedure in place. So it proves you've done everything reasonably practicable as well, that you have the right policies and procedures in place. And common actions, again, to address that. Example area would be pay decisions. So introduce pay transparency through salary frameworks and bandings. So it's a bit like the councils, local authorities, where they have banding in place, and they say, when I speak to friends and they say, yeah, I'm in band A or band B, and I haven't got a clue what they're going on about. I do, but that's what I'm on about in the private sector, to introduce frameworks or bandings and introduce formal structures. And then you won't find as many people negotiating a pay because they know what band they can go for. So prohibit salary negotiations, or allow this based on existing frameworks. Schedule regular formal pay reviews, moving away from the practice of employees asking for a pay raise. So common actions to address. Again, family-friendly policies. Have a look what you've got. I don't like to go into incredible detail with family-friendly policies. I do think that we need to go back to basics ever such a lot with our policies and procedures. I think in HR have become, I know when Labour were in, there was over 100 changes in employment law, and if you were in HR at that time, you were going through, I don't know, TUPE, redundancy, or a genuine credit to that point, it would have been the last on your mind to redo all the handbook. You might have just added policies and procedures to it, and then you might not wonder which policies to take out or introduce, what needs to be changed, and it seems like a huge job. So what we then end up with is a big handbook that's like 100 and odd pages that nobody blooming reads. And I'm trying to get the message across to businesses. We need to go back to basics a bit. We need to go back to basics with our handbooks, to our safety handbooks, so that we in HR and managers and directors feel comfortable enough to go through and comfortable enough with our policies, and that they will stand the test of time, and that they do carry the flavour of the company, they do mean what they say that's written on the tin, and that I am comfortable enough. And by going back to basics, whether it be with your policies, procedures, or even your equipment at work, it may highlight the things in a company that you have, which right from the equipment that you're using to a member of staff that's hindering. I do truly believe that doing gender pay gap analysis will highlight failings within companies of managements that are out of time, that are stuck in the mud with their views, and those people have no place in employment law unless they change their attitude going forward, make a company move on. So enhanced shared parental, for example, so pay to encourage uptake. So I know families where a female has given birth and then she's been pretty poorly. And then there's situations within business where the man might be earning less than the female, and actually they would like the opportunity of sharing that parental leave. And so what we may look at a company at enhanced shared parental leave and encourage people to uptake on that. But also, people don't know their family-friendly rights and not knowing how they can use them. So I'm going to pause here for a second and just give you a little example of a family-friendly right that people don't use very often, or they use it in the wrong way. and it's sharing leave. So what we have is we have urgent dependence leave. So that's when, for example, as you know from these webinars, I've got 4 children, I've got 4 grandchildren, but so I am a working mum. So I will come across a time in my life, for example, the schools rang me up with my eldest daughter, who's now 28, and they rang me up and said, you know, Heidi's walked out of school again. She hated school. She's, you know, in the 5th year, she hated it. And I'd have to, you know, turn around on the motorway, not obviously in the middle of the motorway, services, turn around and be really angry that I've had to go back to work to encourage her to go back in, you know, encourage her to go back into school. At this point, I may ring in work to say, please can I have a day off today? I've got a problem at home. It's an urgent, it's to do with my child. I've got no childcare. She's walked out of school. And I get an urgent dependence leave. Generally, that's unpaid leave. You may choose to offer that as a holiday with written agreement for that member of staff, but generally that's unpaid leave. But we have this leave where where somebody works in your company and they have children or they have a dependent and they constantly let you down. The example I'm going to give you is a lady I spoke to a few weeks ago before Easter. She said, I have a member of staff that she works for me, and she knows that she's going to have childcare issues in summer because she's talking about it now. And she's saying that she's going to deal with it in the summer. By then, I would have given people summer holidays that I'd taken extra work on, and then suddenly she would have just phoned in on the day. I know she's going to do it because she did it last year, and I haven't got anybody to have my children, and she'll leave me in the lurch for a week. And she thinks she can just take dependence leave. Now, dependence leave is urgent leave. That's not urgent. She now knows before Easter in the summer she's going to have problems with childcare. The lady, after further questions, I admitted this worker is an amazing worker. She is reliable apart from the school holidays. So an option may be that we offer her parental leave, which is available to somebody who worked there for a year, that they can take it in blocks of a week. They're going to have to give us 21 days notice, so she matches and ticks all the boxes. She's taken the week off anyway, but what does she? I said to her, do you not know about parental leave? She said, never heard of it. So a lot of employers out there don't know the family-friendly rights. If the employer doesn't know the family-friendly rights, then certainly the employees won't know either. So it might be, if you are in that situation, maybe to have, I don't know, a larger company may do this, have a sheet of family-friendly rights and maybe let them know how they can use those family-friendly rights. So outline the family-friendly benefits in job adverts. So another example employment area is workplace culture. Create a diversity task force. Have a diversity representative on the board or report to a board level and raise internal awareness and provide management training. So create a diverse task force. That's and stop this workplace, you know, a great workplace culture. Everybody's respected for just who they are as a human being rather than anything else. The advantages of voluntary reporting. So not all employers have to legally report. So why would you? Well, statistics show that it's more likely than not that your workforce has a gender pay gap. It is difficult to be an inclusive, diverse, equal opportunities employer if you don't know your gaps. So don't act on, and if you're not acting on this. So the advantages of voluntary reporting: for 2017 data, 284 organisations with less than 250 staff reported. But for 2018 data, 365 small organisations reported. And then 5 small organisations have already reported for 2019 data. I think that's fantastic. What we're showing here is we're showing, you know, a lot of small organisations grow into magnificent organisations, huge organisations. And I always say to a business, start off as you mean to go on. You have one member of staff, you have a contract, you have a handbook, you do a risk assessment, you have safe working practices, and then once you've started that, the brickwork is done. You've just got to add to that. It makes it much easier to manage. So these small organisations aren't getting the message. They know probably in the future that every business in the UK will have reports. So the advantages of voluntary reporting: it shows a proactive approach to this issue. It gives people evidence of commitment and equal opportunities employer. It also allows identification of gender pay disparity, and it creates business case review internal practices and it provides evidence for result in action. And you know, there is a policy on the CIPD HR Inform on voluntary pay gap reporting. So if you'd like to look at that, it's available to you. Again, the advantages of voluntary reporting, what to do with the report. No legal requirement to publish externally. So consider internal publication, management and board only, internal publication to all employees, external publication on your own website, showing how positive you are and what a positive image you have, external publication, including governmental reporting website. So what we have available to you at CIPD HR Inform and the resources that are available to you is there is an employment law resource and a how-to guide on tackling the gender pay gap, policy on voluntary gender pay gap reporting, template on gender pay gap report and action plan, letters to employees raising concerns, flow charts on gender pay gap reporting in the private sector, a checklist on carrying out gender pay gap reporting, checklist for creating a gender pay gap report, and a checklist for creating a gender pay gap action plan. Obviously, this webinar today, we will answer any questions that you have. And if you do have a question that you would like to ask us, please email us at events@hr-inform.co.uk. And also, because I'm doing these webinars, I'd like to know what webinars you'd like to hear. Would you like to hear ones regarding employee engagement? Would you like to hear one on incentives, motivation, keeping your staff well, on well-being, healthy eating, sickness, recruitment policies? I don't know. The choice is yours. The options are yours. You're listening to me. If you have any ideas of webinars that you'd like to listen to, again, email us at events@hr-inform.co.uk. If you'd like to book your CIPD HR Inform demo and get a free 24-hour trial or take advantage of the 50% off for subscriptions for all CIPD members, it's a fantastic tool to use, which produces the letters, the management guides, the policies, the procedures that you're using on an everyday basis, and they're reviewed ongoing to make sure they're thoroughly up to date with the support of the advice that we give and the health and safety advice as well. Thank you for listening to me today. My name is Amanda Chadwick, and if ever you like a CIP HR Inform speaker, you can again email at events@hr-inform. Thank you very much for listening to me, and hope to speak to you again soon. Thank you.